Hi, I'm Scott Hickey. My team members, Jackie Weckworth and Kiera Wellner, we're going to be presenting today about PBIS systems in the Milwaukee Public Schools district. So, in order to start this conversation, we have to know what PBIS actually is. PBIS is Positive Behavioral Intervention System. Okay, basically PBIS is handled and supervised at the district level. It then filters down to the school level, and then classroom teachers will then develop and basically work with PBIS with their students to try and get the positive behavioral outcomes that we want to see in our schools. So the technical answer of what PBIS is PBIS provides an operational framework for improving student academic and behavior outcomes. More importantly, PBIS is not a curriculum, intervention, or practice, but is a decision-making framework that guides selection, integration, and implementation of the best scientifically based academic and behavioral practices and interventions for improving student academic and behavior outcomes for all students. So basically, to put that all in a nutshell, we want to improve the behavior of our students in our district. Okay. When we look at this in a real-world setting, expectations is that we want everybody involved in helping our students having positive behavioral outcomes. Okay, we want to show the students how to achieve these expectations. We don't want them to guess at what they're doing. We want to set positive examples of what they need to do. We want to acknowledge their positive behaviors. We want to work closer with the students that need greater interventions. And we want everybody working together to build a positive community within our building. Okay, if we look at the structure or the hierarchy, if you will, at the district level. In NPS, the Department of Student and Family Services is what oversees all of PBIS. That filters down to the PBIS supervisors, which there are 2 in Milwaukee Public Schools. This then goes to PBIS external coaches, which there is 1 for every region in our district. Now when we get to the school level, we have PBIS school-based facilitators and the Tier 1 team. There's a building intervention team, also called the BIT. And then we also have the school administrators, obviously. Now, if we look at what the external coaches do, they're assigned by the district and they move across from school to school, making sure all their schools are on the same level within their specific area. They're familiar with the process and how it works. They assist the teams at each school. They attend all the trainings, attend meetings. They're an active member, but they are not the team leader. That's meant to happen at the school level. They're the main contact person for the team facilitator, and like I said, we work with all the schools in the region. What the team facilitator does is they're the school-based person who works on site, and they are making sure that PBIS runs smoothly within a school and is implemented in all the many classrooms and at the different levels. They're familiar with the process, facilitates teams through the process, making sure everything's in place, minutes are taken, action plan created. They attend all meetings, receives extended and ongoing training from MPS. The team leader, and they report to the external coach. So that's the hierarchy, how it goes uphill, if you will. Now the administrators, they are encouraged to participate in this process and play an active role. They communicate their commitment to the process because we want this being kind of working to change the culture within a school and also helping change that. So the administration, as being the people that lead the school, should also be involved in making sure that everybody is implementing this and making it work. And like I said, they should be familiar with the school's current data and reporting system.
Hello. PBIS is the school level system. I'm Kiera, Ms. Wellner. So there's 3 tiers. There's Tier 1, and that includes all students. So any student, it also includes the staff, all staff. Tier 2 is where you have 1 adult working with multiple students, and Tier 3, you have multiple adults or staff members that are working and targeting just 1 student. Tier 1, the elements, you establish a team to carry out the PBIS efforts in the building. The only way that PBIS is going to work in a building is if the staff is committed to making it work. At that point, you develop 3 to 5 school-wide expectations and create specific rules. A lot of schools have matrix that are posted in every classroom, and that shows you exactly what's needing to be followed so you have consistency. Establish recognition and acknowledgement. I know some schools have that for students, but they also have it for staff, such as Teacher of the Month, and then they get a parking pass, or a parking spot. Create lesson plans and systems for teaching behavior. Those lesson plans come up at my school in the TAP, and they're behavioral lesson plans, and in order to be a school that's qualified as a PBIS school, you do need to be doing those lesson plans. And continue to use the PBIS language. The best thing about PBIS, I used to do it at elementary level as well, is it's positive. So everything you talk about is positive, but you use the same language. So every teacher is using the same language, so you have a consistency across. Tier 1 team, you have the facilitator, the recorder, the data specialist, timekeeper, communications, and then sometimes other things come up, especially with events that are being planned or incentives. The subcommittee that you have, they help teach, communicate, acknowledgement, and then they also do data. The data subcommittee, it's a team that uses data throughout the year to determine what steps need to be taken to address behavior. If we're not constantly looking at the data, we don't know what specific behavior that we need to cover. Individuals in this committee or subcommittee collect various forms of data, and they're going to bring those to the Tier 1 meeting. Data reports consist of referrals by time, location, the student, how many referrals on average. Referrals, you can search it by certain behaviors, whether it be assault, battery, drugs, defiance, and you can also do the attendance by grade. The teaching subcommittee. Member of the subcommittee, they do the lesson plans, the behavioral lesson plans. It's one lesson that's taught weekly. It's usually about a 10 to 15 minute lesson. You do have the whole week to teach it. Teachers can fit the lesson into their schedule, and the whole school stops what they're doing and does it at the same time. So at some point in that week, that's the lesson. Most months or most weeks will have a different theme to focus on. I know at our school this year, we're going to take the entire month of October and focus on anti-bullying awareness. Acknowledgements. The members develop and work with staff to implement a school-wide acknowledgement system, acknowledged frequently in the building. Some examples of this are the Teacher of the Month that we said. We do it for attendance. We do it for safe choices, displaying respect, high expectations, and teachers actually nominate the students based on their positive behavior, which then has a positive kind of ripple effect for the other students to see the students being acknowledged for positive behavior versus negative, unwanted behavior. Communication subcommittee, they'll offer PD to staff. So at a staff meeting kind of like this, they would get up, share the data, let staff know how their interventions are helping out. Sharing the data and solicits feedback from staff to improve systems. So that would also come in the form of an exit ticket. Tier 1 evaluations. Team implementation checklist. That'd be progress monitoring of the team, and that's taken early in the year in about October. Items scored not yet started or in progress should go on the action plan. So basically this is more of your baseline data. It says what you already have in place and what you need to be put in place. The self-assessment survey is an online survey taken by the entire staff once a year that kind of gives the morale of the building and where the building's at as far as being developed in the PBIS system. Benchmarks of quality covers all elements of Tier 1 over the course of the year, and it's broken into 10 sections. And then the school-wide evaluation tool, that's conducted by the district team for PBIS. It interviews the principal, it takes 15 random students and 10 random staff members on the school's PBIS framework. Thank you.
Okay, I'll be talking today about the systems that exist in the school at the Tier 2 and the Tier 3 levels. So at every school, as we mentioned earlier, one important element is the building intervention team. Now this team is responsible for ensuring that both behavioral and academic interventions are occurring at the Tier 2 and Tier 3 levels. For the purpose of this presentation, I'll just be focusing on the behavior aspect of the building intervention team. What they're responsible for is coordinating interventions such as check-in, check-out, SAG groups, and Tier 3 interventions such as Renew. They're responsible for looking at the data to determine which students may benefit from these interventions and when students should be taken out of the interventions, when they should be moved to different interventions and whatnot. They take care of training needs and they ensure that notifications are going home. This diagram shows the behavior intervention team process. So every team meeting, they're currently doing essentially the same steps. They're screening, they're diagnosing, they're matching interventions, they're making sure that interventions are occurring, they're monitoring the data, and then they're entering the data into Exceed. So really every month the BIT team would run data to screen for students that may benefit from a Tier 2 or Tier 3 intervention. They're going to look at the data to kind of diagnose and match the student for an appropriate intervention. They're going to essentially coordinate with the school staff to ensure that the interventions for those students are occurring. And then they're going to make sure that the data is being monitored on a regular basis, being collected and monitored in order to understand if the interventions are occurring with fidelity and if the students are benefiting from those interventions. Here's a brief summary of the entrance criteria that is used for Tier 2. So depending on whether it's an elementary school or high school, you might have different entrance criteria, but it's always based off of office discipline referral data, suspension data, as well as parent, teacher, or even student referral. And again, brief summary of what the Tier 2 interventions actually look like. Check-in, check-out, social, academic, instructional groups, and then a form of modified check-in, check-out. So really when a BIT is looking at students, for the most part, they're generally going to put students into a check-in, check-out first as a kind of a universal intervention because most students tend to respond to it. This is what research tells us, that basic check-in, check-out really does help support those students that are kind of on the cusp, that really could be pushed more into that Tier 1 level with additional support. Then data is used to determine how the students are responding to check-in, check-out. If necessary, if the student isn't responding adequately, they're either moved into a SAG group or they're moved into check-in, check-out with more individualized features. Kind of a breakdown of the basic check-in, check-out daily cycle. A student is assigned a mentor, and that they greet that student every day upon arrival at school to make sure that they have all the materials, to make sure that they're greeted positively, to make sure that their day starts off on a positive note. They meet with their teacher in each class, where the teacher provides positive feedback about their behavior, where that relationship building piece is coming in, and the teacher completes the daily progress report at that time. And at the end of the day, the student meets with the mentor again, just to kind of a reinforcer, hey, how was your day? Let's reflect upon the day. And again, really just kind of a systems look at the check-in, check-out process, where you have adults that generally have 10 students assigned to them for mentoring. Really all the students in check-in, check-out are receiving the same intervention, and they're being reinforced with the same school-wide expectations that all students receive at the Tier 1 level. A SAG group, a social, academic, instructional group, it's for students that are unsuccessful with check-in, check-out. So success criteria for check-in, check-out might be that they receive 80% of their points on their daily progress report. If a student isn't reaching that within 4 consecutive weeks of check-in, check-out being implemented with fidelity, then the student would go into a SAG group for 9 weeks, where they would receive small group instruction to address specific skill deficits that the data is showing that they're lacking in, perhaps social skills is one example. And then they are monitored again weekly with a daily progress report, where the teacher fills it out to see if those skills are being generalized to the classroom setting. Finally, the Tier 3. This is the most intensive and individualized level of intervention. Again, for those students that aren't responding to those Tier 1 and Tier 2 interventions. This can look different depending on the grade level that we're talking about. It might take the form of a complex FBA VIP, educational wraparound, or at the high school level, it takes the form of an intervention called Renew, which I'll be speaking about right now. Renew, those letters stand for rehabilitation, empowerment, natural supports, education, and work. And really what this is, it's a very individualized, intensive intervention that tries to engage the student in a process where they reflect upon kind of where they're going in their life, their goals, what they want out of their education, what they want from themselves after school is done. And the student goes through a process where they develop goals and teams meet in order to help support that student. And then here's just a visual overview of that process. Again, engaging the student in the process, getting them to reflect about their life, going through action planning, and then finally the more of the implementation piece where the team gets together and supports that student. And then here are a couple of examples of the evaluation tools for Tier 2 and Tier 3. The measures of advanced tiers tools, where basically it's progress monitoring of your team. You started in October and you see how your team develops over time, and then the benchmarks of advanced tiers. This is an extensive survey taken by all team members, and it covers Tier 2 and Tier 3 implementation. Now we're going to have Scott talk about PBIS in terms of the classroom system.
Hello again. As Jackie said, I'll be talking to you about the classroom systems. If we look at the classroom level, one of the most important things is to have a classroom matrix, as I have my classroom that is off camera. But the whole point of this is that the students are inundated, if you will, with PBIS and how it looks in their school, so they have a firm understanding of the different levels and how that works. It needs to be consistent school-wide. We need to have procedures in place, verbal acknowledgments, and how we use Tier 1, and active supervision. But the biggest thing about this whole thing is about building relationships, especially with classroom teachers and the students that they teach and service, so that there's a relationship to try and decrease the negative behavior. So this is an example of a classroom matrix. So if we look at what it is to be safe, be respectful, be responsible, we can look at what it means in a whole group, small group, and how you assess that type of thing. So for example, being safe in a whole group is remaining in your seat, keeping materials on or below your desk. In a small group, we're staying in your assigned group, using materials for their intended use, and here's the assessment type of criteria for it. And that's it. Thank you very much for your time. Have a great day.